Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm going to go on a road tour of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm going to take you along with me. Kind of. I'm going to go on the tour, and anytime that I stop, I'm going to film part of this video. So basically, I've wanted to talk about being scared to admit that you're a writer for a while now, but it's coming to even more of a head than usual just because I've been on the road and I've been meeting so many new people. And of course, inevitably the question comes up, so what do you do? What do I do? And it's really silly, but there's still like a little jolt whenever I hear that question and I have to answer, and I'm like, I'm a writer. And this has been the case since I was really young too, this fear of saying that I'm a writer. So I was a painfully shy kid, even more so during like adolescence and like the growing teenage years, which I won't get into why for right now. It's not super relevant to the story other than knowing that I had a lot of self-doubt, and my biggest fear was being noticed. Being noticed by other people freaked me out so much. And that part is going to be important, I promise. So I started writing seriously around 7th grade when I wrote Harry Potter fanfiction, and my family moved around a bunch between 7th through when I graduated high school. And so as we were moving, I was getting more and more serious about my writing. I moved from Harry Potter fanfiction into like my own stories that I was creating. So when I did or didn't have friends, depending on where we were in the moving cycle, I would bring a notebook around with me and I would jot my thoughts down there. I would make story notes and I'd put at the top, I'd put like my name and the date and the class period this project or paper was due for. Around 10th grade, this was starting to be noticed more, and so people were asking questions, and again, my fear of being noticed above anything else overrode everything, and so I stopped doing it. Now cut to the summer after 10th grade before 11th, I had to get a physical, and the doctor asks me, what do you want to do when you grow up? Now I'm basically out of adolescence at this point, and I'd gotten slowly, ever so slowly, I was getting more comfortable with myself. We weren't going to be moving anymore. I knew that. These were friends that I was going to have, hopefully, and would stay friends for a while, and so I was finally ready. I was finally at a place where I was like, you know what? I can admit to the doctor of all people who I only have to see once a year. I can be like, you know what? I want to be a writer, and I can feel sure in saying that, and this is like this is a baby step toward being more brave and more open with what I want to do and who I want to be and what I'm interested in. Because I think, like a lot of writers, I always had a very active internal playground going on, and while I was very shy and I didn't want to be noticed, I actually really liked myself and I liked who I was and who I was becoming, and so I thought a step toward being more brave was to show that to other people. So I told the doctor honestly, I said, I want to be a writer when I grow up. I am not being light in saying that she basically shat all over my dreams, okay? And I totally get it. It's like realistic versus ideal world. I got a degree in finance. I minored in economics. Like, I understand having something that's going to make you money and something that's like a pursuit, a passion pursuit. But this lady, I sat there for 5 minutes listening to her lecture me, and I think it came from a genuinely good place, and she couldn't have known how this was a big deal to me, that this was the first time I was opening up and being honest and trying to be brave. She could not have known that. And I'm sure she looked at this young 16-year-old and was like, I need to tell her how the world works or something, you know? I genuinely think it's coming from a good place. I did not tell anyone else that I liked writing outside of my family and the 1 or 2 friends I knew from back in my Harry Potter fanfiction days. I did not tell anyone else for a really long time after that. Not until college, which is the next part of this evolution. So then I went to college and I started attending actual NaNoWriMo meetings during November, and I participated in the forums, and I met a lot of friends through NaNoWriMo at and around my university. And with the help from those Nano friends and a boyfriend at the time who was very supportive, I created an on-campus writing group, and we met up every week to talk writing and critique each other's stories, and this was all very fabulous. I finally had writer friends in person, and this helped to assure me around admitting I was a writer to other writers, except that, of course, we all had our own individual goals. We all had our own histories with writing. Some of us had just started writing, some of us had been writing for years, some even before I'd started writing, and some wanted to be published, some didn't want to be published, and that made it a little bit trickier. And it was the first clue that I had that even amongst writers, things aren't all hunky-dory when it comes to claiming you're a writer. Now, since graduating, I've moved a bunch since with different jobs, and I always try to find a writing organization that I can join so that, again, I can hang out with other writers and join critique groups. And I think this is so important to have. And I feel like I have a really great community in AuthorTube online, but it's always helpful to have something in person. The hard part about finding an in-person writing group is that it always takes me several to find a group that I really personally mesh with, because invariably you're going to stumble upon a couple groups that feel like if you do not constantly live, breathe, and like eat writing, that you're not a writer. This was especially hard for me when I was working my finance job, because I was spending more and more hours at that job and less time writing, but I was still trying to meet up with these groups, and it actually made me feel pretty bad, some of the people that I was attending, and I'd have to shift groups, and like, I'm old enough to know now, you know, I'm totally capable of doing this, and I know that not all writers are like that. Again, AuthorTube's a fantastic example. We're very supportive, but you don't always find that in person, and you have to go to a couple meetings to find out. Well, these people have like designations in their head of what a writer is. And at the time when I really wasn't writing all that much, I didn't have the opportunity to write that much. I could only do it like maybe a couple hours a week. If that. Some weeks I couldn't do it at all, but I still felt like I was a writer, even though I wasn't getting to write as much as I wanted to. These people did not make me feel that way. It was very clear that what made a writer was the amount of time spent writing. But then that question becomes, if you can't turn to other writers to be like, yeah, I'm a writer too, who can you turn to? And now as a freelance writer, I still get nervous when I hear that question, because like recently when I finished hiking Guadalupe Peak, and it's the highest point in Texas, it was very awesome, but I was not the first one up there. There was an older gentleman who'd made it up just a little bit before me, so I took his picture, we got to chatting. This is just how it happens when you're out on the trail. And he asked me what I did, and I said that I'm a writer, and he asked me if he would have read anything by me. No, man, probably not. Slim to none, slim to no chances that you read anything by me. And on top of that, it's not even under my own name. So, no. And when he asked that, and when I answered, it was like this nervous bubble, like, you know, that slight clenching in your heart, where I was like, I know I'm going to tell you the truth, because I've gotten to a point where obviously, like, it's no big deal. And yet, some part of me is still freaked out by that question, because it's like I'm judging myself if some random guy has or hasn't read some of my work, and it's dumb. Like, I point blank, I know it's dumb. Conceptually, rationally, I understand, and yet it's still just right here, you know? So then my question, of course, is when does that feeling stop? Does it stop? Like, if I'm still having trouble being like, hey, yes, I am a writer, and no, you may not have read my work, I'm still a writer. You know, it's like going to a dentist. Just because I don't go to you doesn't mean you're not a dentist. So then when does my own fear of admitting that I'm a writer stop? Is it when I've published a book? Like, is that the indicator? Or is it even going to be like it has to meet certain sale requirements to feel like I've made it, that I'm a writer? Like, these are the ridiculous things, because I know that I shouldn't have any problem saying it now. And again, no one should have a problem saying it ever. And yet. And then there's the whole divide between like self-publishing and traditional publishing, and I have no skin in the game, and honestly, it makes no difference to me if you've self-published or traditionally published. I've read wonderful books of both, and yet there's a whole community that devalues self-publishing and doesn't feel like you're a writer if you had to self-publish your book. That's a whole other tangent for another day, but the point stands. When am I going to chill out? When am I going to be okay saying that I'm a writer? When is that fear not going to bubble up? I don't know what this was. A rant? A casual chit chat, just me berating myself. So despite my whole personal feelings on the issue, I want to make it very clear what I believe to be true. You either write or you don't. It's not an estimation of how prolific you are or how successful you are. You're a writer or you're not. If you've sold 1 million copies of a book, you're a writer. If you have an unfinished draft that you've been working on all your life, you're still a writer. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to whatever this was. Please comment down below and let me know what you think makes a writer, and if you've ever had a fear of admitting that you're a writer or that you write, and have you ever had it amongst other writers? I would be very curious to hear about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon with a new video. Bye. There are people coming and this is super awkward, but I don't have a better way to do this. Ooh, ooh. Ooh. My nose is real red. I got a real bad sunburn. I mean, it's always kind of red, but it's super red right now.